Oh my gosh, Jim. It's the final episode of our spring season.
It's the final episode.
Do, 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 do.
I feel like we just started.
How did 3 months go by so fast already? It must be part of our charm.
Wait, I think that's the name of this episode.
Yes, that's right.
So we started with casting on, and here we are at binding off.
Light from Lantern presents Knit a Spell. I'm Magical Maker, Katie Rempe.
And I'm the maker of magic, James Devine.
Join us as we stitch together the symbiotic relationship between crafting
And the craft. Your bind off is so charming. How many times do people say that? Like, gosh, I really love that sweater because of the way that you did this bind off. It's so charming.
I think there could be some charming bind-offs. Yeah.
No, I think you meant
No,
putting a charm into your bind off,
maybe
right?
it was a bit of a wordplay situation there, yes.
I just thought, do you put little tassels or dangles or little bells or something on your
Oh,
bind off?
oh, you're talking about literal charms, like a charm
So
bracelet.
that's what I
Yeah,
want. I want the right hand sleeve of my sweater to have charm bracelet charms on it.
perfect. We will make it happen.
Just the right side.
Yeah, so that when you're pointing to stuff, people will know it. Ching,
Jingle,
ching, ching,
jingle.
ching, ching, ching,
Yep,
ching, ching,
jingle,
ching. Yeah,
jingle.
it won't be annoying at all.
Last week we talked about blocking as a way to set the shape of the piece. But binding off is really the end of the knitting process.
That's right. We probably should have done those episodes in the reverse order, but I just love the idea of binding off after we started with casting on. And so
Totally.
I don't care.
It's all good. It's all good. It's perfect. So the magic is in finishing. How common is it for us to start things and not finish them? Oh, isn't there a term that you guys use?
You're talking about our UFOs?
Oh, that's right. Of course you love that term because you're an alienophile.
Yeah, and I like to knit things and not necessarily finish them. So I have a lot of unfinished objects, as it turns out. Yes.
Unfinished objects, a UFO. And here I am starting a new one because I'm bored with all those. I'm an Aries, so that's 100% me.
I think a lot of knitters will be on our side in agreeing that starting a project is the best part of knitting the project.
Yeah, that is the best part. And if you, listener, are a finisher, I totally want to know your secrets. Is it just your personality? Do you have a way that gets you to go through the dip of, oh my God, this project is so dumb. Why did I take it on? And then finish it? The magic of finishing is the hits of dopamine and oxytocin that you get from actually finishing and saying, oh my God, I did it.
The hit that you get from starting a project is great. And I think it's because the whole project is like a mystery at that point. And then you reach the midpoint and you're like, oh, well, I have to just keep doing it. And that's not as exciting. And that's where people lose it. However, if you can get through that, like you said, if you're one of these people who are like a one project at a time person, which I have known one, Ellen. But if you're the other one who's in the world, let us know by
Richard.
emailing us. Oh, Richard. Okay.
It's not just his crochet that he will really be committed to and continue to do. It's also books. He will
No.
read, yeah, he will read a book that really bothers him and keep reading it to the very end. Of course, complaining the whole time. And I'm like, stop reading it. Give that book away. Nope.
No.
That's a man that has to finish things. I admire people that can do that.
That's the same people who probably have no yarn stash. Another thing I don't understand.
Yeah, that's not exactly true here, but
No, well, okay, good.
so finishing something is super important. When we think about the one-to-one metaphor between crafting and the craft, if you set up an intention, let's say you have an intention to get a promotion at work. Let's just use that as a mundane sort of example. And you do a spell for this work promotion to help support you in your work and your excellence. And you just leave it open. You don't have a plan if you're doing candle magic of how to disposition the candle remains. You don't have an idea of like when it ends. There can be this sort of loose end energy that's just floating around. And it can seem very anticlimactic because it actually doesn't have a climax. And it doesn't really have a intention that you can then send out. Now, there are magical work that can work that way, but we really love the idea of when you finish a spell, when you finish a ritual, it's done, it's finished. You put the intention out there, And then you have to let that intention come to fruition by not messing with it anymore. Before we knew that balloons were so bad for the environment, we would sometimes, and you can do this in your imagination, is imagine your intention put into a balloon and released up into the atmosphere to
Mm.
then be released into reality. So
Oh,
part of the finishing is you want this piece to come to fruition in real life.
yeah,
So none of your UFOs slash WIPS are actually real. They're all partially done projects sitting somewhere and they haven't come to fruition.
totally. As we're talking about this, I'm realizing that I can see the reason that a lot of people fall out of love with knitting is because they are not finishing projects. And so they aren't getting the thing that they initially intended to start. We love starting projects, but it's usually because we want that finished thing. If we never ever get to those, we're going to fall out of love with this thing that just takes from us and then never returns anything. Not that it can't just be like a meditative thing. And if that's all you're doing it for, that's a different story. If you're just knitting to knit, you probably just have one project and you don't really care. But if you're like us and you're inspired by all these things, it is important to occasionally go on a finishing spree that not only makes you feel good and has your stuff and then you can use it, you get your needles back, you get the opportunity to start something new later without the guilt. And like you said, you have all these works in progress out there. I see them as holes in your vase. These are just open energy sources that are leaking, which is another reason I think when people commit to pulling out old whips, it's like the little chain you didn't realize was taking you down for that
Right.
baggage.
Interesting. First, the lingo is really cute. So, tink your whips. It's interesting to think about how those unfinished projects can pull on your own energy in a very
Mm-hmm.
subtle way, and how powerful it is to decide to finish it either by unknitting it or tinking it, or by actually knitting it and finishing it. So,
Exactly.
when we talked about the different patterns, like in lace or the bubbles or the other techniques you can do in knitting with yarn overs, things like that, how sometimes you will say, yeah, and you get to practice doing this particular technique. And I'm like, gosh, if I'm only knitting to practice or only knitting a swatch, that's not, doesn't have something that I'm really looking forward to using. But if I'm knitting something relatively easy, but it's actually going to be a something, that could motivate me a lot more, because my desire for this gorgeous hat or this amazing scarf or whatever is
Yep.
relatively easy to do could really drive me to finish. And I also think having the blocking, like we talked about last episode, how creative you can get with blocking. So each section, each part of the knitting has to be something that's either meditative that you're doing while you're at a lecture or in class or something, listening to this podcast. I hope you're knitting while listening, and or exciting because now that you've finished this section, now you get to do the purple stripe or
Right.
whatever it is.
If you can align your mindset to make every step along the way equally as exciting in different ways, then you have got it made. You will finish it. Once you realize you don't like this thing, it's difficult to do, it's inconvenient, whatever, you'll find ways to put it off. Or it's just a swatch and you're like, I don't care about a swatch. But as soon as you said these swatches are a blanket in the future, it could be the same thing. But I say, oh, well, that's a washcloth. And you're like, oh, practical use. Cool. I'm going to use this now.
That means I'm going to block it every day because it's a washcloth.
That's right. All it does is get blocked every day. Wet blocked.
In finishing magic, like a magic spell or a ritual, we really do a kind of bind off. We might even say this magic is done or this spell is complete. In a ritual, we might want to release the circle by going around the circle in a particular direction and opening up the circle so it's not standing the whole time. The energetic bubble within which we're doing our magic, we want to open that up so the magic can be released into reality. If we're doing a spell, we want to decide, what am I going to do with these remains, which means the melted wax and the herbs that's still part of the candle when we clean off the plate that it's on. Oh, do I want this to stick around? Do I
Mm.
want to create a ball of wax with all the herbs and stuff in it and put it under my bed? Do I want to put it in a little silk sachet and keep it? Do I want to bury it under my steps? Do I want it to be near me to continue to attract something? If you're going to bury it in the earth, please use beeswax or a natural wax. In any case, am I going to do something with that? Or is this something that I need to get rid of? Is this something
Mm.
that is like, I am doing this to cut a tie or to stop my repeated unwanted behaviors or things like that? And in that case, how do you want to dispose of it? Again,
Mm.
be environmentally conscious. If you're using paraffin, that's a petroleum product and should be disposed of properly. But if it's a natural wax, soy or palm or beeswax is the best. Gosh, you can put that at the crossroads. You can release it into the recycling. You can put it in the compost. You can get rid of it. We can bury it somewhere away from you.
Throw it out in a dumpster. Oh, maybe
Big
that's legal.
bucks.
Yeah.
Don't put it in someone else's dumpster, but you could dispose of it in a public place. So, like a park, you
There you
could
go.
throw it away there.
You could also do that with the knitting. So if you decided like you're finishing, you bound it off, you hated it or whatever, and you want to get rid of it, you can bury that just as well, especially if it's a natural fiber. So
It's a lot of energy to bury. Could be really powerful.
yeah, I'd love to see what grows out of it as a result.
Gosh, makes me think that you could actually create a swatch that is specifically for a spell. How cool
Yeah,
would it be to say, I'm going to do a 60 by 60 swatch,
I like squatch.
squatch.
Yeah.
You're going to do a 60 by 60 squatch,
Yep.
and it's going to be in this color. And I am going to block it into a sort of stretched out diamond shape. In that, you could do all kinds of oils and herbs and stuff, because who
Mm,
cares if it's not something to wear?
right.
And you could block it out and then take that piece with all the intention you put into it. Every time you're knitting it, you're intentionally going through this mantra, or every stitch means something. And then you could put the herbs and crystals in it, tie up the ends, and bury it. That would be
Yeah.
such a powerful spell. It's a way to also do a swatch with intention.
Talk about no wasted effort, right? You do
Right.
the swatch for your project. And so that's the intention of learning the thing for your knitting. And then you have it for this other purpose. And I also love the idea of like, maybe this is something that you're looking to grow, a grow spell. So you make it out of green, you plant it in the ground, you put seeds on it, and then you tend to it. And so
Put
every time you
seeds
go
in it.
back, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, roll it in there, whatever.
When you're binding that off, so you're finishing that with the bind off, that's especially a time when you're saying you're removing the needle with every stitch.
Mm,
What a cool way to put that intention with the bind off.
yeah, I
So,
love it.
what I'm curious about, Katie, is I have done a bind off, and I only know of one way to bind off. But if there's two ways to block or multiple ways to block, I know the answer is yes, Jim.
Yes, Jim, there are multiple ways.
So, can we talk about those after the break?
I think that's a great idea. So stick around. We'll be right back. Hey there, fellow knitters. Are you ready to enchant your stitches with the power of color? Discover how in my online workshop, Knit with Color Magic. In Knit with Color Magic, you'll learn how to use color as an intention setting tool. This self-paced workshop will teach you everything you need to know to get out of your color ruts and conjure bewitching combinations while adding intention. You'll also learn how to build a strong and simple intention, how to translate intention into colors, and to develop a personal grimoire of color correspondences. With a simple shift in your mindset and some personal reflection, you can start knitting color magic into any project. And for a limited time, listeners of the show can save $20 off this workshop by using the code COLOR20 at checkout. Find all the information in the description or visit lightfromlantern.com/knit with color magic to learn more. Merry make!
Hey, Katie. So you've taken my intro to palmistry course, and I'm wondering, do you have any realizations as a result?
I realize that this entire time I have been a Muppet who uses their hands to express and emote. After taking your course, I've realized I've probably been giving away my own unconscious motivations this whole time.
But only to the people who know the divine hand palmistry method.
I gotta be in the know.
And if people are familiar with the divine hand method, your repeated gestures with your hands definitely give away your unconscious motivations. You can be a mind reader. Do you find that you can get insight into other people based on their hand gestures?
Oh, yes. I'm hyper aware of, is it the right hand where it's more of your outer personality? Is it the left hand that's featured, more of your inner personality? I am now overanalyzing everyone.
Especially as you come into election season, which seems to happen every year these days. It's so fun to watch for repeated gestures.
I highly recommend anyone who might be interested or curious in learning more about Intro to Palmistry to take Jim's brand new online course. It's self-paced and it's available at introtopalmistry.com. That's where you can find out more information and sign up.
How do we bind off? Are there more ways to bind off? What are all the ways to bind off? Can you list them? Can you tell us? Can you teach us? Do it now. I want to hurry up and finish.
Typical man. All you have to do is make a wish that you wish it was done, and then you put it under your bed with $5, and then in the morning you
with
still have
100?
$5 and you don't have a project that's finished, but you save $5.
What's the bind off you taught me?
There's a regular bind off. I looked for the name of this and all I could find was regular bind off. So this is the method that most people will use, which is probably the easiest one, I'm guessing. Not the most stretchy, maybe bind off option, but if you plan to do it looser or you do it on a larger needle, you can get there. So you start by knitting the first 2 stitches, and then instead of continuing to knit, you stop and you leapfrog the first one that you knit over the second one and then right off the needle. And then you only have one. And what that is doing is just wrapping it around this needle to secure it.
So you're
or this
making
stitch, rather.
You're making a knot.
So you continue in that manner, leapfrogging one over the other until they're all off the needle. And then you have your lovely finished project.
That's what I did at the end of my swatch and what I'm familiar with.
That's the old reliable, the utilitarian use. Like the long tail method is the one that you go to. This is the one that you go to in terms of the bind off. So this would be like the complementary match. So I have other ones here, but there are also many decorative bind offs too.
Right.
In fact, here, hold on. Let me sing this quick song that I put together with the 132 different bind offs. Oh,
no, stop. Okay, no.
All right, never mind. Fine.
Okay, I was really hoping you actually did write that song.
Maybe I will.
Katie's actually a really good singer. If you ever
thanks.
get a chance to sing karaoke with Katie, it's a lot of fun.
It doesn't take much to encourage me to sing.
Okay, so you said the regular bind off is not very stretchy. And I've noticed that too. It's more like this line at the end. And I think I've had garments that the end of the sleeve or the edge of the sleeve sort of shrunk a little bit, and it's annoying.
You like pull it and there's not any stretch.
Yeah. Right. Let's talk about the next one.
If you are looking for what I would say is my go-to, it's the Jenny's super stretchy bind off.
Who's
Who the
Jenny?
hell is Jenny? Yeah.
Is she your friend?
Know.
Hey, Jen.
She's from the block.
Thanks for making the bind off.
That's right.
If this stretchy bind off is named after Jenny, why don't you make the regular bind off named after Katie? You could just be like
Katie's regular bind off.
Katie's regular bind off.
I don't want to be regular. Katie's basic bind off.
The basic bitch bind off.
That I like. Okay, that's a new shirt. We'll get them on the summer.
All right. Tell us about Jenny's super stretch bind off.
In this method, Jenny figured out that if you add yarn overs in between the stitches that you're binding off, that adds extra room in between each one, and thus creating a default way stretchier bind off in almost no more steps.
I totally did that on accident.
Oh, did you?
But I only did one.
This is probably how she figured it out. Invention's just an accident.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Okay, so that's cool. I just keep thinking about a sweater sleeve, but I'm also thinking about the socks you made for me. Did you just do those in a spiral from the toe? But they're flat. Like they're flat at the toe. And at the end, you just bind off at the end, but then you had to insert this heel. So you must have done some fancy footwork with my socks.
So this is a great point. So I knit those socks from the toe, cast on at the toe, and then knit in a tube because I did an afterthought heel, and then bound off in the ribbing pattern, the regular bind off, but I matched the knit to purl to ribbing in order to make it match and still remain stretchy. Yep.
I see.
What I had to do for the heel is pick up live stitches and then knit that little cup like an extra toe. And what do you have to do at the end? You have to Kitchener stitch them together.
What? Kitchener, like a suburb in Canada?
Huh. Maybe that's where it came from. I guess I'll do some research after this, but it's also known as grafting because that's what we're doing is we're sewing 2 sides of live stitches together to look like another set of knit rows, and it just totally disappears.
It does. I could not understand how you did that with my brain.
It's magic. Instead of knitting the stitch, you're literally just going in and out of the 2 stitches to put them together as if You're just weaving right through them.
That's cool.
It's one of the bind offs that is very prevalent in knitting, but most knitters hate it because they have to remember and reference back to it. I've done it a million times, and so it is burned in my brain. It's a way of stitching together live stitches seamlessly. So instead of it being like two finished pieces, like I knit a sleeve and it's all bound off, and now I have to seam it onto the armhole, that would just be like a different sewing. That
That's
wouldn't
not
be like grafting the pieces together.
together.
I feel like this one is the most magical of the bind offs because you are like really taking that time to weave in two parts. If you wanted to do a spell for two things, this is a great way of combining them, or a balance of a kind of thing, a
Yeah.
liminal space. This is a good one to use.
A lot of times you'll see the dual colored candles, or you'll see two things needed to come together. So if you even were just using knitting as a spell, you could take two 30 by 60 swatches and do this between those two on the long edge, and then you would have merged those two colors. Maybe one color is you, maybe one color is your partner and you want to come back together, or maybe one is your upper part of your femur and the other's the lower part of your femur, and you want to knit those together because you want to heal your broken leg.
Oh, yeah.
Anything.
Oh, or you could do the whole thing in one color. And then when you go to graft it, you do that in a different color so that it is purposeful that you see the stitch. Like you said, I'm stitching together my broken leg. I'm healing my connection between people. I'm whatever the thing is that
Right.
you want to join together.
And a lot of times that joining is stronger. Like a bone never breaks in the same place twice because the healing is actually strengthening.
Good point. All right, next bind off is the tubular
Oh my
bind
God,
off.
totally tubular. I'm a kid of the 80s.
Yeah, I got it.
So is that what you use for tube socks?
Yes, so this would have been one to use for like your socks. In this instance, it's really good for ribbing, for 1x1 ribbing or 2x2 ribbing, meaning like you knit one, purl one, or you knit two, purl two, because it mimics the ribbing and the stretchiness. So this is a good one to use for cuffs that have that ribbing.
A lot of sweater cuffs are ribbed, aren't they?
Yep.
But then the bind off, if you just do a regular bind off with that, there's stretchiness, but then the regular bind off is this yarn bracelet that's tight.
It is a yarn bracelet. That's right.
Restrictive.
It doesn't match the ribbing pattern at all.
Right. It doesn't do the back and forth.
Whereas this, it'll look like you just folded the piece right over and like it's a continuous fabric. If you wanted to do bobbing and weaving, that's a nice one to do. Keeping a flexible attitude, again, this is a good one.
Since you have that flexibility, it's I'm going to finish this and it's going to be flexible and usable. And yeah, that's a really cool intention to do with that.
But it still remains elastic, so it won't stretch out. It'll keep its shape, stays on the course.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right, and then we're going to wrap it up with sort of similar to the Kitchener stitch. This is the 3 needle bind off. And right off the bat, we got the power of 3. So there's that.
What the heck is that?
Imagine you're making a shirt and you get to the top and you've made your front and you've made your back. And now it's time to seam them at the shoulder. In some cases, you will have these pieces on stitch holders to keep them until you're ready to do this part. And then you'll put the front on needles, and then you'll put the back on needles, and you will hold those together. And then you'll use a third needle to knit a stitch from the front in with the back, simultaneously binding off and seaming all in one step. Boom.
So this is 2 panels that you're intending to seam together. You can use this 3 needle bind off. Why would you do that instead of the Kitchener?
Great question. The Kitchener stitch offers a completely seamless look,
invisible,
like it was just knit. And that's great. However, if you're using it at something like the shoulders especially, it's really nice to have extra support there. And by doing the 3 needle bind off underneath, it will have that ridge that looks like a regular bind off. And that adds support and structure into your
where you're going to hang it up in your shoulders.
Exactly. Yeah.
The place where most of the weight is stressing the garment.
Yes. Otherwise, it can look really slumpy and frumpy. And sometimes you have like a poncho that doesn't have any of that shaping and you're always pulling it up, pulling it down. And that's why.
That's so cool. So if this is preventing the garment from sagging, gosh, maybe this is like strengthening your shoulders to carry a burden or the joys of life and to be strong as a provider for people around you or for yourself. That could be a great
Yeah.
intention or idea with that 3 needle bind off because it's strengthening and helping to prevent that
Mm.
sag. I could see how the stitches at the shoulder could loosen up and open up if you didn't
Yep.
have a strong bind
Yeah.
off there.
It's like a reinforcement. It's also something you could do for the top of a hat. If you were doing it all circularly, you can finish the end by just doing it in half and then seaming it so that it's like a flat top instead. And then it's like strengthening
Yeah.
your crown chakra or anything that's
Right.
coming in.
We did that at the Women's March where everyone was wearing those pink hats
Yep.
and
And
you would
that's how you
seam
get the points.
across and get those 2 points on either end.
That's it. Yes. Boom.
Yeah.
I'm so proud.
So now I can no longer have a UFO sighting at your house because you've finished all of your whip.
That's right. All of my whip, just
You've
the one that I have
you've
going.
whipped it out.
And much like our season now, we're coming to the end of our UFO where our whip is being whipped. We're whipping it real good.
Reflecting on this season really quickly, we had some amazing guests.
All of our
We
guests were so great. And thank you to all of our listeners, our Patreon supporters. And remember, just because we are no longer going to be on over the summer doesn't mean that we don't have a catalog of amazing episodes for you to watch. And plus, we'll be on Patreon all year round. So come and join us there.
I can't wait. This summer is going to be gorgeous and amazing. Keep up with Knit a Spell and keep on knitting.
Follow us on Instagram if you haven't, or join my newsletter where I do all sorts of updates on what is coming up. We'll miss you, but remember, you can always see us on YouTube. Woohoo!
Yay!
Jim, don't tell all of our listeners. You're
Okay.
really the reason I love doing this.
Oh, stop.
No, I won't, because you're the best, and I just really
You're the
appreciate
best.
you.
I would
Oh,
never do this without you.
a divine meeting.
I can't wait till our next season. What is the topic for our next season? In fact, what season is it?
Ooh, it will be season 6.
6 seasons? Jeez.
I know. We'll be back with our fall episode on September 4th when we will be diving into the topic of enchanted tools and containers, all involving our knitting.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that our favorite thing is the findings and the bags? How many project bags do you have? Be honest.
I have as many project bags as I have projects going. So a few.
And isn't it, if you go to a show or an event, isn't it a good giveaway that everyone gets? Even we have created a project bag for you that you can still purchase.
That's right. We'll put the links to Maker's Mercantile, who hosts it for us, so that you can have some awesome swag to represent your favorite podcast about knitting and magic. And also remember that if you join our Patreon, you get a free sticker after for 3 months.
You get to do all of that and you'll be well prepared for the start of season 6.
Yes. We let all of our Patreon subscribers know every month what the month ahead schedule is going to be, what our guest stars we get them, and you guys can influence it as well from our polls. So we hope that you will get involved and let us know and share your feedback because we really appreciate you guys and your support. So thank you again.
Season 5 was awesome. Thank you so much for everything. And we will see you in September.
See you September 4th.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for
listening.
If you enjoyed the show, consider sharing it with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes and Spotify, or following Knit a Spell on Instagram.
You can also subscribe to the Light from Lantern YouTube channel to enjoy full episodes of Knit a Spell and see our happy faces.
You can also learn more about readings, classes, and events going on with your favorite maker of magic, James Devine, by visiting thedivinehand.com and subscribing to his newsletter. Then follow Jim's fun and interactive Instagram account at DivineHandJim.
Keep up with Katie, the magical maker, by subscribing to her newsletter at lightfromlantern.com. You'll receive a free knitting pattern as a thank you gift. Then follow Katie on Instagram at lightfromlantern for even more magical making tips.